디지털 시대 방송과 통신의 벽이 허물면서 가장 바쁘고 또 큰 변화를 맞고 있는 쪽이 아마 미디어 쪽이 아닐까라는 생각을 가져봅니다. 이번 세션에서는 디지털 시대 미디어 생태계의 변화에 대해서 저희가 논의를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 역시나 대담 형식으로 이어지는데요. 먼저 프랑크 르벨르 CSA 기술 총책임자와 미국 플로리다 대학교 언론 커뮤니케이션 대학 정보통신과의 실비아 챈-옴스테드 교수, 그리고 서울대학교 언론정보학과의 이준웅 교수와 함께 이 이야기를 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
Please be seated. 안녕하십니까. 저는 이 미디어 생태계 세션 전체적인 진행을 맡은 서울대학교 언론정보학과에서 언론과 매체를 가리키고 있는 이준웅이라고 합니다. 감사합니다.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Sylvia Chan-Olmsted. I am a professor in media economics from the University of Florida.
Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Frank Lebeugle, responsible for the direction of technology at the CSA, the French regulator for broadcasting.
자, 우리 미디어 생태계 세션 바로 시작하겠습니다. 방송 기술의 발전과 방송 서비스의 확대에 대한 이야기로 시작하겠습니다. 확실히 최근 방송 기술이 너무 발전하면서 사실은 방송이라는 용어 자체가 굉장히 낡은 것처럼 들리고 있습니다. 그런데 일반 시청자들의 경험을 보면은 그들의 시청 경험은 굉장히 확대되고 또한 심화되고 있다는 것을 알 수 있습니다. 방송 시청자들은 방송을 이제는 인터랙티브하게 상호작용으로 보고 있으며 다시 보기도 하고 요즘에 이제 저장했다가 몰아보기 뭐 이런 식으로도 합니다. 그래서 분명히 방송 기술의 발전은 시청자들의 그런 어떤 경험을 확대시키고 심화시킨다, 이렇게 말씀드릴 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 그러나 이게 이제 첫 번째 질문입니다. 과연 방송 기술의 발전에 따라서 그 시청자들이 혜택을 진정 보고 있다고 말할 수 있을까요? 즉 방송 시청자들의 복지가 기술의 발전에 따라서 비례적으로 그렇게 높아진다고 말할 수 있을까요? 바로 이게 우리의 첫 번째 질문인데 두 분의 전문가 지금 모시고 계십니다. 먼저 이 질문을 플로리다 대학의 찬-올msted 선생님께 던지고 답변을 들어보겠습니다.
Thank you. I'm glad that you begin our conversation today with a statement about audience experience. The voice of audience is now more powerful than ever before because of technology. Today's media industries are not operating in a one-dimensional, horizontal playing field. In fact, I believe that the media ecosystem is moving toward a circular form with audience at the center of the system. From this perspective, the welfare of the audience is improving precisely because of innovations. To a certain degree, the negative side effects occur because there are systemic obstacles to impede the emergence of this audience-centric media ecosystem. For example, there is a cost to have access to all these wonderful technologies. If audiences think it is essential to experience the innovations in their lives, they would have to make choices in how they invest in their time and money. From the perspective of industry players, terrestrial broadcasters today are not and should not simply be in the business of terrestrial broadcasting, because more and more consumers are not differentiating between media platforms, and they are the one in charge. In today's world, broadcasters are in the business of delivering audience experience. But there is a cost to invest in the audience. Media products have to be relevant and simple. Media companies have to understand why and how the audience make choices. And I believe all of these will contribute to the welfare of the audience eventually. I believe the audience welfare today is not about being free. It's about being valuable to the audience.
자,
Indeed, Sylvia, innovation is sometimes perceived by the traditional players such as TV channels as a source of significant risks to their economies and business models. No doubt, a specific attention should be paid to the conditions under which innovation starts and grows so as not to foster competitive imbalances between actors. However, innovation is also for those traditional actors a potential source of growth, since it may provide new exhibition spaces for their audiovisual works and thus generate additional revenue. It is the responsibility of the regulator, such as the CSA I represent today, to reflect and act in favor of a fair competition for the benefit of consumers, such as not to impede new services and new actors to enter the market, and thus propose alternative regulation and appropriate incentives with respect to fundamentals such as child protection, pluralism, diversity of opinion, and promotion of the creation. In that sense, the DTT platform plays a prominent role as it offers all these guarantees which are registered as specific missions granted to the CSA by legislator. Just have a quick overview of the landscape in France. We can observe that time dedicated to viewing video over internet represents less than 6% of time dedicated to watch linear TV. At this point in time, there's no evidence of a substitution phenomenon of linear television by video content consumption. They may be rather complementary, especially with the development of social TV and second screens.
자, 그러면은 사실 미디어 사업자들 간의 경쟁이 가장 심한 미국의 경우에 초점을 맞춰보겠습니다. 미국의 경우에 지금 현재 VOD, 즉 주문형 비디오 공급자라고 말할 수 있겠죠. 의 성장이 아주 눈부십니다. 대표적으로 넷플릭스라는 사업자의 성장이 아주 눈부신데요. 도대체 이런 어떤 미국의 경쟁적인 방송 환경에서 말하자면 지상파 방송은 그런 어떤 VOD 등등의 사업자들에 대해서 어떻게 대처하고 있는지 그 대처에 대해서 한번 얘기를 들어보고 싶습니다.
The U.S. system and the situation is different from our French counterpart. According to a recent VOD report, the number of viewers who watch TV shows using subscription VOD in the United States increased about 30% last year. And the dominant player is Netflix. They have about 88% of the market share. We have Hulu Plus and Amazon. They hold about 12% in combination. Traditional broadcasters are now facing fierce competition from OTT, over-the-top services like Netflix and Hulu. They're very popular in the United States, especially among the Generation Y, the millennials. We have this saying in the United States that the young people are cutting the cord, which means that they are canceling their cable services altogether. With the popularity of VOD, the US broadcasters are not doing as well in terms of its viewership comparatively. In fact, just last month, the FCC chairman, Tom Wheeler, told the broadcasters in one of the most important annual meetings they had that they need to stop thinking like TV station owners and try to be more like Netflix if they want to survive. This is from the FCC chair. Again, we need to look at this from the perspective of audience. Linear TV experience is gradually being replaced by digital video experience for many audience segments, not everyone, but many. Audiences do not care about which platform they use. In many of our studies at the University of Florida, when we ask young people how they define media, they never talk about print, TV. They actually define that media is our connection to the world. When I asked them what kind of TV they watch, they said Netflix. When I mentioned radio, they said Pandora, Spotify. So this is really a very different world we're in nowadays. The People are simply looking for enjoyable media experiences. They may want to watch large screen TV socially with their friends, and then the next moment they move on to a small mobile TV. The US broadcasters are handling the changes in 4 main ways. First, they try to increase the availability of their programming online through streaming services, either on their own site or through other OTT VOD services. They start providing apps for their video, either live or on demand across different platforms, so people can watch video non-linearly. They are modifying how they develop programs. For example, Fox gave up the pilot season in favor of commissioning television all year round. And this is very different. This is a fundamental shift of how they produce, how they carry out the creative process. This is shifting to more synchronized with the habit of the audience, not the habit of the producers. And finally, they are increasing audience engagement through all social media platforms, especially Twitter. In a nutshell, we're seeing many new players entering the OTT, VOD market. There's Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Yahoo, Xbox, PlayStation. They're all creating premium digital series. It is important to note that in the United States, we are not dealing with just traditional media companies anymore. Many retailers and brands such as Amazon, Xbox, they have access to the end users, to the consumers through devices or services. They are expanding the sales of their physical goods to digital video goods. So we're seeing a trend of new production from all these different players. You probably heard of the House of Cards from Netflix, and Yahoo and Amazon, they're producing new series as well. The US broadcasters still deliver most of the mass appeal programming, but with a projected growth rate of 1.6% in the next 5 years, they are undervaluing really their content producing competencies. And I believe the obstacles are largely due to managerial obstacles, challenges, not regulatory or technological challenges. But the pressure now from Netflix, the crisis, really has finally kind of moved the cheese, so to speak, of the broadcasters. I think we'll be seeing more changes in the business operations, as well as different ways of engaging the audience. And this is highly encouraged by the regulators as well.
자, 미국의 사례가 상당히 선도적이다, 선진적이다 이렇게 말씀드릴 수 있다면 그 프랑스의 사례도 굉장히 재미있습니다. 특별히 프랑스는 방송 체제 자체가 공영방송 체제와 상업적인 그런 어떤 사업자들 간에 경쟁적이면서도 굉장히 보완적인 그런 어떤 체제를 유지하는 것으로 잘 알려져 있습니다. 최근에 프랑스에서는 IPTV 등 굉장히 그 상업적인 방송 사업자들이 그 성장하고 있는데요. 사실은 전통적인 방송 사업자인 지상파 방송도 반격을 하고 있답니다. 예컨대 UHD TV, 즉 초고 해상도 방송 이런 것들을 얼마 전에 그 시험 방송에 성공을 했고 2016년까지 방송을 한다는 것입니다. 과연 프랑스의 디지털 방송은 어떠한 변화를 맞고 있고 거기서 지상파 방송은 어떤 준비를 하고 있을까요? 직접 르베글르 선생으로부터 얘기를 들어보겠습니다.
In fact, the first experimental broadcasting of terrestrial UHD TV has just begun on Monday, this Monday, for a 9-month period in France. The authorization was granted to a tower company, which targets an open platform. It will deliver up to 2 UHD services. Of course, contents will depend on market players' proposals. The first real-time content will broadcast during the Roland Garros tennis championship starting from the end of this week. In our initial plan in CSA, we wanted that many cities in France should be covered before 2016. But the ongoing debates on the future of the 700 megahertz band have somehow slowed down this initiative. And at that point in time, there is no detailed plan available for the time being in France concerning the transition to the new standards DVB-T2 and HEVC. because of these political decisions not taken yet. However, we believe in CSA that the DTT platform must continue to carry market innovation. A DTT platform willing to meet the viewer's expectation in the future, in particular in terms of higher picture resolution, and access to mobile services must migrate towards next generation transmission. For UHD broadcasting, France has not secured frequencies so far. There are currently 8 multiplexes in France, mostly composed of SD and pay TV channel and HD program. The future of these 8 multiplexes deeply depends on the government decision of releasing again 100 megahertz for telcos. The timing of such a release would also be a key issue, since it would determine whether a switch to the next available broadcast technology is feasible and compatible with the market or not. We can wonder if UHD will provide an edge for terrestrial broadcaster. Just remember, at the launch of the first free-to-air HD channels in October 2008 in France, and during the following years, broadcasters did not consider that upgrading the image resolution of their services was providing any competitive edge. Average consumers were also sometimes considered as not fully able to discriminate between locally upscaled contents and high-definition content. But the usage trains the users and is more difficult today to switch from an HD version to an upscaled SD version than it was at this time. So from a platform point of view, the competition is again a key question. While 4K Blu-ray format standardization is being completed, gaming consoles and video markets will set the consumer's expectations. If high bandwidth platforms could provide such content once widely available, this could doom the other platform to a slow but certain decline. For the media industry, lastly, the UHD content production will probably first be a costly trip, while HD systems and investment are still very recent when achieved. This would probably later turn into new opportunities for both content creation, but also for consumers' experience. UHD is not only a format question, but it also the next step, opportunity for the media industry, and therefore for the end user as well.
자, 그 방송은 흔히 생태계라고들 합니다. 그 방송 산업 내에 여러 사업자들이 있고 서로 연동되어 있으면서 서로 이렇게 상호 교류를 한다는 뜻이겠죠. 맨 밑에는 뭐 컨텐츠를 제작하는 방송 프로그램을 제작하는 컨텐츠 제작자가 있고요. 모아서 편성해서 방송하는 사업자들도 있고 플랫폼 사업자라고 새롭게 등장하고 있고요. 그다음에 이런 이제 기기를 만들어서 파는 회사들도 있습니다. 흔히들 컨텐츠가 가장 중요하다 뭐 이런 식으로들 말을 합니다. 그러나 이런 어떤 경쟁적이고 점점 경쟁적으로 변해가는 미디어 생태계 내에서 어떻게 하면 컨텐츠의 가치가 실제로 정당하게 평가받고 또한 이것이 말하자면 선순환 효과를 만들어내서 방송계 전체에 말하자면 가치를 창출을 시키고 더 많은 컨텐츠, 더 고품질의 컨텐츠 이런 것들을 만들 수 있는지에 대한 고민이 필요한 시점이라고 생각합니다. 사실 미국은 전 세계에서 가장 많은 방송 콘텐츠를 공급하는 나라 중에 하나입니다. 찬-옴스테드 선생으로부터 이 그 콘텐츠 제작자들은 어떤 방식으로 미래를 맞이해야 될지 그 점에 대한 이야기를 한번 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
Thank you. First, I would like to stress that content is still the king. There is tremendous value in content when innovations brought about more distribution services and platforms. However, even with all the connected devices, the focus should be on the act of consumption, not the devices. Audiences expect fluid transition from one access point to the next. The content needs to follow the audience and be presented in the optimal format for consumption in that particular platform, or a combination of platforms. For example, apps system for content delivery such as Watch ESPN, HBO Go, these apps provide additional good content experience than just simple linear HBO and ESPN programs. The BBC iPlayer app in the UK provides a rich and popular on-demand interface for many of the BBC programs. This is one way a more linear broadcast network can respond to audience needs. I understand that Content Alliance platform has started a VOD service, or POOK, here in Korea. This will contribute to an audience-centric media ecosystem. I believe it is strategically imperative for the broadcaster to design the VOD system with intuitive, friendly interface. Again, audiences are here for the video experience. Are they buying using your service? Why aren't they using your system? It's never just about payment. It's too easy just to say because this one you have to pay. It's also about user experience. Content is half of the battle, but it is not the only battle. VOD is a big part of the nonlinear video future. If the broadcasters are not in it to do it right, others with data, resources, connection with the consumers, maybe the Korean version of Amazon will do it. In terms of specific strategies, I think a few things will help the broadcasters remain competitive, considering that they already have very good core content producing competency. First, take advantage of the audience information available in the big data era. Learn from the data-driven commissioning approach of VOD services like Netflix and Amazon. They take the tens of millions of interactions between the programs and the audience and turn them into the basis of sorting out promising ideas. Data cannot tell the producers how to make a TV show, but it can tell them certain aspects of experience that the audience prefer. At the same time, we should not operate under the old assumption only mass appeal format would work for the broadcasters. The new media value chain and the ecosystem is inducing the emergence of a long-tail media marketplace. The digital content market is different in that it offers better connection with the viewers and also technological platform for good, never-ending story development. It allows for better economic visibility for niche content development. Finally, broadcasters should pay special attention to the segment of Generation Y, the millennials. They're extremely important in today's audience ecosystem. They will form 75% of the global workforce by 2025. And it takes modern technology. You think this is a technology generation, but it takes modern technology to understand, to reach Generation Y. We see that in a lot of the research we conducted. It takes understanding how they communicate, how they connect, how they learn, how they share, and how they influence, how they make decisions and take actions. They are a very powerful audience group into the future.
자, 이게 이제 우리 미디어 생태계 세션의 마지막 질문이 되겠습니다. 다시 지상파 방송으로 돌아가서 지상파 방송이 이런 어떤 미디어 생태계에서 어떤 역할을 하는지에 대해서 물어보도록 하겠습니다. 단, 이번 질문은 특별히 수용자 복지와 관련해서, 즉 지상파 방송이 수용자에게 더 많은 혜택을 주기 위해서 어떤 역할을 해야 되는지 묻도록 하겠습니다. 이번에는 먼저 르베글르 선생에게 기회를 드리겠습니다.
So as a conclusion, I will be very short. Because it's a regulated platform, DTT provides citizens with a high, reliable content TV service, where freedom of communication prevails in accordance with respect of human dignity, pluralism of currents of source, and protection of minors. This is not an easy task for the classic traditional actors as TV channels to reform, since both digital and traditional television hold their own different paces but the broadcaster must be cautious in keeping the right pace and to adapt to this new deal. I would thank you very much for the audience.
Okay. The premise of my perspective is that an audience-centric media ecosystem is the system that best contributes to audience's welfare. With that in mind, I just want to mention a few things. First, broadcasters have had a long history and relationship with the audience. They need to do what they are good at. They need to be allowed to do what they are good at with simplicity, relevancy for audience's sake. And I believe they need to be compensated fairly by other platforms for the content. For example, they're good at producing dramas in local news, something of value to the audience. Is there a viable option for them to remain relevant to the audience when advertising revenues are declining? Reality is there is no completely free content or technology. The future for us media professionals is not tied to how we use Facebook, smartphones, tablets. The future of media comes down to relevance and our ability to understand how technologies affect audience decision and behavior so we can recognize new opportunities and adapt strategically. And broadcasters need to move in that direction. And I want to thank SDF for inviting me to share my thoughts with you. And if you want to continue this conversation, look me up on the internet. Thank you.
자, 이것으로 우리 미디어 생태계와 시청자 복지 세션 마치겠습니다. 감사합니다.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Right.